recap show with Dojo Live. My name is Kim Lentis. Joining me is Carlos Ponce. Hey, Carlos.
Hey, Kim.
Hey, so today we're recapping last week's show with our very own COO, Matt Perez, talking about settling into the work from home life, which is very timely considering what's going on worldwide right now. And so, we're here to talk about that show. We've got a couple things that we wanted to talk about today. Our takeaways from last week's show were basically when it comes to working from home, the best advice is to stick to a routine. Um, we also want to be able to communicate well with our household members, right? To make your needs known. This idea of establishing work hours and sticking to it so that you can strike that balance between the work and life balance, right? And then, of course, treating each other like adults and act like an adult. So, Carlos, what do you think? How was last week's show for you?
It was pretty interesting, Kim, especially, well, not only because of the topic itself, but also because the conversation was with one of Nearsoft's co-founders, uh, whom I really admire, and also I feel that we have a lot to learn from him based on his experience. I think it was great. It was interesting, and as he says, well, he's been working from home literally throughout Nearsoft's existence. Then, given
I think you
Nearsoft's
said like
success,
15 years or something like that, right?
yeah, it's like, so this guy probably knows something, right? So yeah, I look, knows a thing or two. So one of the things, Kim, the first thing the first thing that I remember is what actually one of our recap points is stick to a routine. So I find
Mhm.
it when you're kind of not only working from home on a traditional manner, like, yeah, I'm a work from home guy, but especially when you're forced or driven to work from home, like these days. So how do we stick
Mhm.
to a routine? How do you stick to a routine, Kim? How do you handle the routines when you're working day to day at home?
Right. Well,
Okay.
I have to admit, I'm still adjusting to this a little bit, especially since I'm having to work from home with both of my children present because the daycare and the schools are closed.
Yeah,
But
same here.
with routine, yeah, I try to make myself get up at the same time every day, shower at the same time every day, as if we were still sticking to our schoolwork routine. Getting dressed, I think, was something that was really important to not live in pajamas, right? To
Mhm.
really get your everything that you can to sort of you stick to that usual routine like you always do. I think part of that also encapsulated this idea of trying to find a specific work environment, maybe to try to uh, put together a space that's your workspace, right? Even if you don't have the luxury of having a home office, maybe move a table into a bedroom or find something that can sort of simulate this right environment, that can be somewhat private and isolated. And I think that's part of the routine element as well. And I think what I'm trying to do, at least personally, as far as the routine, is sticking to my routine, trying to work, that classic 9 to 5, and then as best as I can, doing any housework or homework
Mhm.
with the kids or something after that time. So my children's routine's a little screwed up right now, but I'm trying to keep mine.
Yeah, and I think it's even more challenging when you have like in the software development industry, which is well, we're not engineers, but we know a lot of them, and we know it's a very demanding industry. You have to be very focused. You have to be creative also. So that I mean, when you have a very different, to say the least, surrounding, that part of the work is challenged. So you have to be creative to maintain a reasonably productive environment when you're at home. Which kind of leads me to the second point, which is how do you maintain some certain sense of order at home while working from home? Well, you need to, number two, communicate with household members, right? So for example, in my case, I am very strict on what given where I'm working right now. It's like, okay, from such and such time to this time, I'm not even around. Okay, so I am, but I'm not. So you have to be very strict. You have to be
Right.
and also come to agreements, with the rest of your family members. I know but you know that, Kim. I know that too. With kids, it's hard
Mhm.
because they don't
It
have
is.
the right dimension of what it takes to, they live in a different world. So I think that's but the rest of the adults in your household, yeah, you can tell them, please help me with this. I need to focus, right?
Yeah, pretend I'm not here unless it's an emergency. Pretend I'm not here.
Yeah, pretend that I'm not here,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, and
that
I think that's fair. I think it just comes down to trying to coordinate, sitting down and even making some type of agenda with our household members, right? Whether that's our children, our spouses, roommates, whoever it might be. Like, this is what we're going to do to help everybody. This is the time that you need. This is the time that I need. This is the time that we'll sort of be working on, cooking or eating together or
Mhm.
family time or whatever it might be. And I think another point that came up, although we don't have it in our recap points, is this idea of not being too hard on yourself.
Oh,
um,
right,
I
right,
think
exactly.
yeah, like we get used to, or at least I do, wanting to, excellence, always excel. And there are times in life like now where that might not always be the case. So I think just this idea of trying your best, but not being too hard on yourself, which really kind of goes into the point number 4 here, which is the treat each other like adults and act as adults. I think we already talked a little bit about this, a lot about the third point of establishing work hours and sticking to it, going into this idea of routine. Um, and going back to this idea of giving it your all, like sometimes, especially like you mentioned in the software industry, there's contingencies or things that happen that we're not really planning on. So I think whatever extra or overtime that you might already be, give under normal circumstances, I think it's, fine to do that. But this idea of, what, time to unplug today. I did what I need to do and organize myself for tomorrow and um, disconnect. But the idea of treating each other like adults and to act as adults, this is something that's very foundational to us here at Nearsoft, right? And I think this is something that I wanted to extend this invitation. This working from home element is something that's always been available to us, something that we've taken advantage of for years and years. And I think I would extend that invitation to other companies, especially now that we have to work from home by force in some ways. um, I would encourage other companies to look at this as something that they could incorporate regularly in their company's culture beyond, coronavirus. And also you employees, right? Like, let's not screw this up, right? Let's prove to our employers that we are adults, that we are responsible, that we can in fact do this, that everybody benefits from this type of relationship. Um, so yeah, I mean, companies, be welcoming, and employees, take
Hmm.
it seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And especially, you have to. Yeah, I mean, we do it regularly at Nearsoft as a part of our culture, but still, but these days, Kim, I think it's even more important to trust each other. And I think that at least in my team, I think we're well aligned, not only in trust but also in purpose. Okay, we're in focus. So, and I also think when working from home, I think it's very important to also uh, push yourself, especially in hard times, challenging times. Push yourself to get yourself out of the comfort zone that you might have gotten into. So sometimes we're like, yeah, this is, I got this, I got this covered, or you get some momentum, and then you get a pandemic situation like this one, and you go, wait a minute, I gotta get out of my comfort zone. I gotta get creative. I gotta get my butt in gear. So it's like, and I think it's for a lot of people, it's scary, and it is in a way, but it's also, I think it's motivating because it's going to push you to a test. It's gonna it's let it, this puts this working from home in these days. It's like, let's see what you're made of, right?
Yeah.
It's that
Time
kind of
to
situation.
make lemonade out of lemons, folks, right?
What was that again, Kim?
Is it time to make lemonade out of lemons?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that
those
actually
were my
takes us to the
takeaways.
end of our recap today.
Mm,
It was a great show, great conversation. Watch it. And what's coming up later this week, Carlos?
absolutely. Okay, this week, this Wednesday, let's see, we're gonna be having the CTO. We're gonna be having a conversation with the CTO of a company called Flash Recruit, which is a platform to a talent scouting platform. And we're going to be having a conversation with the CTO, Sean Massa. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And it's going to be about strength finding interviews, or highlighting the candidates at their best, and gatekeeping in hiring. So there you have it, folks. It's this Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, right here on Dojo Live.
Perfect. Well, until then, see you later, Carlos.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ruben, there in the background. Bye.